We had a guy, like the biggest story that I tell people was to the guy who came in and it's like, I'm going to kill myself. I have a gun. And our volunteer talked him down and said, hey, can you do me a favor? Just unload the firearm.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Not So Special Forces podcast. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Today is awesome. Today is episode number 9. I'm going to get you introduced to a former U.S. Army officer who served in the 82nd Airborne Division, and he's doing something incredible for veterans in the country today. So let's go ahead and we are feet wet. Let's get this going. Everyone, let's get you introduced to Stephen Shanghai Six Machuga. Stephen, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Chris.
Stephen, I learned about you from another guest, and I was like, he's doing what? And he told me about it. And then I reached out to you. We had 1 or 2 conversations, a whole bunch of emails going back and forth. And I am absolutely taken aback by what you're doing for the veteran community out there, the guys that are suffering from PTSD, guys that are struggling with their service and some of the things they faced. So we're going to talk about that. But I'm excited to have you here, man. This is, I told my wife about 10 minutes ago, I was kind of pacing around. I was reviewing the notes about you, some things that I found, just some of the show prep stuff. And she saw that I was giddy. And yeah, man, this is cool. So thank you very much for being here. You are a very, very busy man. And time is precious, man. So for you to take out your busy schedule, share your story of service.
Well, this is part of the gig. It's getting the word out there. It's talking about the organization. I mean, and letting other people know, like, this is us, so this is important to what it is we do, is amplifying our message, spreading the gospel. So yeah, this isn't a waste of time or anything. You're not sitting here, we're not talking about crocheting here. It's like, we're talking about mission and we're on, it makes sense. So yeah, this is an easy one for it.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you. So, all right, man. So let's start off from the beginning. Like I told everyone, you are a former U.S. Army Airborne Ranger out of 82nd. That's out of Fort Bragg, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's right.
I was up in Camp Lejeune and Cherry Point for my entire time in the Marine Corps when I was
right
stateside.
Down the road. Yep.
So yeah, right up the road from you. And I had I talked about another episode. I had a little run-in with some RTB guys back in the 90s, man, and my head still hurts from it. So I appreciate you guys.
Sounds about right. Kids being kids, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So some of the things that we talked about, where'd you grow up? Let's start there.
Pennsylvania originally. Stayed pretty much there for my formative years, and then went to school in Indiana at Purdue University.
Purdue.
I decided I wanted to get as far away from home as possible, but not too far, it was like reasonable. And so it was a kind of almost a legitimate dart throw of just like, all right, I want to get some distance from home. And this was one of the places that took me. And while I was there, didn't know what I really wanted to do, started a journalism degree, and then started to change that over to Russian linguistics, because I grew up on Tom Clancy novels, and it was the Russians were the bad guys. And I was like, oh, this sounds fun. I had to take a language requirement. So it was very much like I'll take Russian. It's better than the usual, like French or Spanish or blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, so I'll do Russian. Cool. Right. And that turned into my major. And then while I was there, I was originally going to join the Marines with a buddy of mine out of high school.
Okay.
And my dad was telling me, like, hey, don't do that. He was in Vietnam as an Air Force guy. He was like, don't do that. Go do a semester in college. And if you still want to do it when you get done with that, I'll give you my blessing and this, that. And I was like, you don't know nothing, old man. You don't know nothing about nothing.
They never do.
And then, yeah, right. And then I go off to college and I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Holy shit. Yeah, thank you. So I ended up splitting the difference and I went ROTC through Purdue University. So I got my second lieutenant out of there, military science, all that good stuff. Got out in 98, and I was thinking, because I had a Russian linguistics degree, I was going to go into the Army as a linguist, or I was going to be a guy in charge. I was going to go intelligence. That was what I put in for. And because myself and the colonel, who is my kind of commanding officer as ROTC, and I did not get along, because he did not think I was taking ROTC as professionally as I should have, because I was in a band, which he did not appreciate. He and I kind of butted heads a lot. So it was very much like the end of the first half of Full Metal Jacket, where he's like, 11, you made it. Like, you're infantry now. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I was going intel. I was thinking I was going to get a desk job. Like, I was going to go be a linguist. And then it was like, no, not only are you going to be infantry, but you're going to Fort Bragg for airborne. And he knew I was petrified of heights. So it was like, cool. What do I do with this new information? So that's how my military time started. Turns out, couldn't have been better. Like Fort Bragg was still terrifying. I hated jumping out of airplanes. It sucked every time I did it. I never wanted to do it once, but I'm so glad I did it because what an experience. I got the real deal Holyfield military experience, airborne ranger, all the cool stuff, I didn't sit behind a desk. I wasn't like a, water purification specialist, like from, Pauly Shore conversation from in the Army. Like I did the shit. Like I'm sitting there. I literally got a reminder yesterday of a photo of me in a Black Hawk getting ready to assault an objective. And I'm like, there it is. That's yes, exactly. Cool. So I had all that. And then at the 4-year mark, when I was getting ready to leave Fort Bragg, I was a transition officer. So I transitioned over to intelligence. So I went to the captain's course at Machuga out of Arizona and became an intel officer from there.
Okay.
So yeah. So that's generally my history. That's when I deployed forward from there.
Okay. So your time at Purdue, right? Did you feel, you said some people didn't think you were taken serious enough. You were in a band. So was ROTC I'm trying to figure out why he what reasons did you give him to think that?
To be fair, Colonel Barrett was correct. I was not taking my role seriously. Okay. So when I was in high school, part of the reason why the charity is what it is today is I am an indoor kid. I play video games. I Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering. I don't go out and hike. I'm not that guy. So when I joined ROTC, it was the sports team I didn't know I needed in high school. Like it was like being on a football team. It was like, guy to your left, guy to your right, training together, working out, going to get beers after. It's like, oh, this is amazing. I love this. Now I was out of shape. I couldn't run a mile, none of it. But because of the camaraderie, because of the, you're in something big, I fell so hard for it. My first 2 years, I was just hard charging, I want to do everything. I'm going to go special forces. I'm going to do the, everything. And then as I got comfortable with, as I got into it, I could run 6 miles. I could, ruck march. I could do all of the, I took it less seriously because it's like, none of this matters. I'll take it seriously when I get to a unit. And so by the time my senior year came around, I was like, not barely showing up to class, but I was getting dinged a lot for hey, you're not taking this seriously. And I think I still, to this day, in my safe, I have a copy of a counseling statement from my colonel. As it was not incorrect about me not taking things seriously, but he put he very much laid it out for me. It was like, and the very end, he fired off I would not want my son to be in Lieutenant Machuga's platoon.
Wow.
And it was one of those when somebody really nails you in a way that's that really stings. And he's not fucking wrong either. It's like, shit, God damn it. I can't even be yes, was I having fun being the lead singer of a band and going to parties and things like that my senior year? Absolutely. It was fantastic. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But also, that one really stung. And so it's like, all right. And I was getting ready to go to Benning. So, it was like, okay, well, this is going to really suck. So I better, enjoy my time. And I was training. I was getting ready for Benning, getting ready for the nightmare that was the infantry officer basic course, and then airborne, and then ranger school, which was obviously you're doing all of this. And it's like, shit. But yeah, it went great. Went to infantry school, had no problems there, passed airborne school, bombed out of ranger school my first run. I got to the mountains and got pneumonia and had to recycle. Okay. And then they just dropped me because I wasn't going to, obviously come back. It's not like a 48-hour, I'm a little sick.
Yeah. And you would miss too much of the progression, right?
Yeah. And they're just and they're like, we're not going to hold you for a phase. We're just going to send you back. And of course, so I show up to Bragg, already terrified of heights. And I'm one of 3 lieutenants who don't have their ranger tab. It's 21 lieutenants in our battalion and only 3 of them don't have their ranger tab. And this guy was one of them. So for the next year, my life was double PT. You suck. It sucked. It was very long.
It wasn't an immediate rolling you back into another class. You had to wait an extended period of time before.
Yeah, no, they sent me home. They're like,
well, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't getting any. That was the thing. I wasn't getting any better. I was there for a couple days, and they're like, "Okay, clearly this is a like it's full blown pneumonia." And it was like, so yeah, so they dropped me, and then I went to Bragg, and yeah, they weren't too thrilled to have me there, so they put me as a platoon leader, but I was like a weapons platoon, like vehicle tow platoon leader. It was kind of
Okay.
like you got a platoon, but all of the not hard chargers, but you wanted a line platoon. You didn't want like the
Yeah, I
vehicles,
got
which
it.
is like a weird, like, okay, it's still a platoon. I wasn't too bent out of shape about it. But at that point, it didn't matter because I didn't have my Ranger tab, and that was all that mattered. It's like going to a battalion and not having your tab, and then it's like, oh, you're gonna get that tab. And so when I ended up going back a year later, it was like, well, you're gonna have to pull my corpse off this mountain. I'm not leaving. I'm not doing that again. So, and yeah, it worked out. I made it through. So thank you,
Fantastic.
82nd. Yeah.
Yeah. So you make it through, you pick up your Ranger tab, right? And then what do they do with you? Do they just I mean, what type of you made it through the infantry officer training battalion, right? You made it through everything else. You were now a tabbed Ranger after completing it. What happened? I mean, where'd you go?
Oh, of course I showed up and they were all like, well, we knew you could do it, Machuga. And meanwhile, my platoon had a betting pool as to which phase I was going to be coming home in. So I
Okay.
was like, all right, thanks, guys. But also, yeah, it was very much like I walked into the company area and it was like, hey, well, how about that, huh? All right,
Yeah.
fuckos. Oh, and meanwhile, everybody else who had gone that session had been come back already. Like nobody else had passed. So it was like, is this fucking guy?
Yeah.
So, but I also knew what I had waiting for me too. Like I was like, I can't go back. Like I can't go back without it a second time. So, but yeah, I ended up taking a line platoon and,
Okay.
the usual progression from there. You just go get your first lieutenant and then you end up in an office somewhere doing XO details. And, it's, the joke of the higher the rank you get, the further away from the troops you get. And
Mm.
so then you hit captain. And before I was able to take line platoon or line company, I ended up going to Machuga to take on the captain's course for Intel, which isn't
Okay.
exactly like, all right, now I'm going to take over Intel company command. It's like, that's a little different conversation.
All right. Now, what year is this?
That would be 2000. Yeah,
Okay.
it was 2000 because it was
Okay.
right because I was I was still at Fort Bragg when 9/11 happened because I volunteered because this is before 9/11. I hadn't done anything. Like we just do training and training and training and training. And I was like, hey, do we do anything in this, in this organization? Like we never go anywhere. We never do anything. So there was an opportunity to become a Russian linguist, Russian liaison to the mission in Kosovo, the peacekeeping mission. So I was like, all right, that's perfect. So sign me up. I'll take that. And so I was literally at Fort Polk for the 3-week train up for the Kosovo mission, peacekeeping mission when 9/11 happened. And then my unit went to Afghanistan and I was
Okay.
so upset because I was like, that's where I was supposed to be. But it's like, it's literally like you're driving in traffic and you get stuck behind one lane of traffic and then you switch lanes and then that lane moves and then your lane sticks. And it's like, what the hell? Like I literally went out of my way to go deploy. And then immediately you go to the hottest deployment around. It's like, God damn it. And so, yeah, that was so I ended up spending 7 months with the Russians in Kosovo, which was a hoot. That was an alternative deployment, as you could say. Like I kind of stuck to the side of 10th Mountain and 10th Special Forces
Okay.
over there. And I was living with in a small Serbian border town, province called Kamenica with the Russians, which was, that was interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say having to be in that part of the world with in a border town with the with the Russians and everything coming out the late '90s or throughout the
Yeah.
'90s and into the early 2000s that was going on in that area, man. That had to have definitely provided just some unique and interesting nights.
Yeah, oh, it definitely did because the Russians were more of a problem than the Kosovars or the Albanians because they were just there was like a three block radius where it was the Serbians had kind of moved in and taken up all these residences that were Albanians and then
Mm.
peacekeeping. And then our job was to keep the Albanians from like throwing rocks at Kosovar school, like Serbian school buses and things like that. And just like, and so, but the Russians were really the problem because they would start drinking on a Tuesday. They wouldn't stop till Sunday. and they would go out with their gauze trucks and take all of the alcohol out of all of the stores on Monday, and then they'd just go right back to
Start
drinking
all
because
over again on Tuesday. Huh?
Kosovo peacekeeping to them was their rotation from what's the name of the Chechnya,
Okay.
the grinder that was Chechnya. So this was like they were just there to drink and whore it up and get into trouble, be a problem. Like they were problematic. Like, so, and of course, NATO and 10th Mountain did not want to hear any problems with the Russians because the Russians were the ones that were kind of holding it down on that side of the force. So it's like, they can do no wrong. And meanwhile, like half of my reporting was like, well, the Russians, they were out, a Russian guy, punched a prostitute in the mouth today and he stabbed a tire with a knife, and the tire blew up and hurt himself. And it was just like, these are the kind of sit reps that I'm sending to hire. And it's like, don't tell us about this. We don't want to know about the Russians. Like, they're the ones causing the problems. And it's not even like it was it wasn't even aggressive. It's just like, hey, what happens when you get a bunch of drunk Russians who are there just fucking off? Like, yeah, all the reports are going to be like spring break, Daytona Beach police spring break kind of reports. It's like good.
That's what they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, all right, you're keeping the peace.
So you're there, you're doing that. And the Rangers the 82nd, those guys are where? Afghanistan?
Yeah. I don't know where they ended up going, but it's just always one of those. I knew my unit went to Afghanistan, and I was like, God damn it.
Right.
It's like, of course.
Were you ever? So how long were you there in Eastern Europe, man, doing that? And
I was there for 7 months. I got back summer of 2002. Yeah,
okay,
it was post 9/11, obviously, and so I went. That's when I went to the captain's course, and that was when, since I missed Afghanistan, I was like, well, shit, I want to get some more. I want to get me some more, boys. There was a guy who was there who didn't want to go overseas. And so when we were finishing up our captain's course and our
did he not want to go overseas because he's already been, or he was just like, fuck that, I'm not down, I don't want to go?
Yeah, he was just like, no, thank you. Which I get it. But also this is why I signed up for the military. Like, I want to go get me some more. And so I was getting a intel command out of Fort Meade or something like that. It was something dumb. It was something I did not want to do. And he was taking an S2 slot at a unit that was getting ready to deploy to Iraq. And I go, I'll do that. Bring it over. And so, so I switched orders with him. And you want to talk about sliding doors or glass doors, where it's like life-changing series of events that occurred, because one half of me would have gone to Meade as a intel company commander, and the other half of me went forward as a line unit S2 in Iraq. And it was very much like okay, well, and I'm glad I did it. Again, it was one of those, if I had just taken I went overseas, I did some stuff, I'm sure you talk to a lot of veterans or folks on here who wish they had done more, and I'm
almost every one of them.
It's like, boy. And I was always kind of a pushover as a lieutenant, and I will never forget I had a staff sergeant who was like, hey, make sure you're pushing these guys. Make sure you're training them. They're not going to like you when you push them harder, but you're going to train them. They're going to be well trained, and they'll respect you for that. And you will always appreciate the fact that you train them well. And I was never that guy. It was always like we don't have anything going on right now. Just head back to your barracks, go play video games. Like, we'll let you know if we need you for something. It was never like we got extra time, we're going to do some hip pocket training today, boys. Let's do over a 9-line medevac procedures or any of that shit. It was never that. It was just like, just go to your barracks. You're good.
Thinking back to what someone told you back in your days of Purdue, right? You're not taking this serious enough.
No, it wasn't so much that. It was also, if you've been in the military long enough, there are enough fuck games where it's like, hey, if you have the opportunity to sham, you take advantage of the opportunity to sham, because there are going to be plenty of top opportunities where the military is sticking it to you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, just go fuck off. We'll let you know when we need you for something. And then don't complain, because you were off playing fucking Gran Turismo in your barracks.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's but I should have pushed guys a little harder, because there were definitely times where it's like, eh. And then especially once we started going overseas, and it was like, 9/11, now it's on. Like, okay, now it's for real. Okay. So, yeah. But
so you mentioned Iraq. Is that where you ended up then?
I ended up
overseas deployment?
Yeah, first 6 months, I was with, 520 Infantry out of 3rd Brigade, which is out of Fort Lewis, Washington. So I
Okay.
transitioned up there when I left the captain's course,
Now is
and
this
that
as
was
an S is this as an S2 or is this as a
yeah.
line officer? Okay.
No, this is an S2.
Intel.
I was an
Okay.
intel
Intel.
captain, and
Okay.
they were real excited to have me up there 'cause an intel guy with a Ranger tab and coming from an infantry background, they were like, "Yeah, this is gonna be great." And so yeah, and so I went forward with those guys first 6 months, and then my last 6 months, the S2X left at brigade, and they needed somebody to take over up there, and I drew the short straw on that one where it was like, send Machuga, he'll do it." And I was like and at that point, I was kinda like, I had had enough war. I was like, "I'm good.
Okay.
I'll go to Mosul."
Yeah,
Kurdish controlled Mosul.
so how was so did you get outside the wire at all? Did
Oh,
you guys
yeah.
leave the fobs? You guys were out rolling around in Iraq.
I make jokes about my colonel at the time, and I'm not gonna say his name, but you can look it up. I mean, it's very easy to find. But I had a colonel who, boy, he really wanted to be in World War II, and he saw a lot of movies and a lot of like, to give you some idea, he pulled everybody into the talk one morning, and he had written a anthem, like a song about, yep, just stay with me. He had written a song because, all right, so 520 is a striker brigade. 520 is a striker battalion. So we were mechanized infantry for the, or I don't know what you call it, but mechanized infantry for the most part. But we were the first strikers in country. And so he wanted that to be some sort of legacy. And so he wrote a song and had everybody, like, he passed out lyrics in the meeting. He's like, this is going to be our thing. And he would he would walk around with an unlit cigar chomped in his teeth with dual shoulder, like 9mm pistols.
He had two M9.
Yep. Yep. So that is who my commander was in Iraq. He was very much, but to be fair, his ass was constantly outside the wire. And his mindset was like, he was trying to get into shootouts. He wanted it bad. Like, he wanted stories. He wanted to blow stuff up. And so
I mean, in my head right now, I got like visions of like someone who wants to think he's Captain America, who watched the opening scene with George C. Scott where he's playing Patton and listening to that talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes,
I mean,
yes,
that's
yes.
like the guy's like, that's, that's what I want to emulate. I got to make this happen. Go find me some bad guys with guns and take me to them.
So hard. So he was constantly doing meetings with the local mullahs and any opportunity he had to get outside we got to go outside the wire. And so he had a unique theory that he wanted to have a rolling talk, as he would call it. And the idea was he would take somebody from each of the S shops with him everywhere he went.
Okay.
And so the concept was he was never far away from his intel guy. He was never far away from an admin. He was never he was always right there, and he'd have a mobile talk and he'd go around the battlefield. Meanwhile, as an intel guy, there's a reason there's a talk. Like, all of the information, all of my tools, all of my computers, all of my boards and maps and everything are all laid out all over the walls. And I have access to SIPRnet, and I have access, when I'm in the field, I'm just a guy with a rifle. Obviously, we're talking 2004 here. So it's not like we have the connectivity, like everybody's walking around with iPads and iPhones and stuff. Like, I don't know what it's like overseas now, but cameras and all this shit that they have now, all these kids nowadays and their technology, but we didn't have any of that. So I literally was just in a striker doing air guard as a captain. And I'm just like, so I'm just a grunt out in the field. So people are like, oh, you were an S2. You probably didn't get outside the wire. And I was like, bro, we were constantly going outside the wire. Like, every couple days, it'd be like, we only had 5 guys in our shop, and it would literally be like, all right, we're rotating through people. Like, all right, you're going today with the colonel, Colonel Happy over there, like trying to get an arm blown off. And so, and miraculously, he made he got into no, because they figured out real early that at the time they could not penetrate the armor of the strikers. So insurgents were not fucking with us at all. Until Iranian explosively formed penetrators worked their way into the country, like at the 6-month mark of when I was over there, which is why I was kind of like I could go up to, you want to send me to Mosul? Yeah, let's go to Mosul. And then they started to figure out workarounds on how to destroy armor on strikers and how to penetrate armor. And it was like, But the first 6 months, we were pretty much invulnerable. We would roll through IEDs and explosive devices and just be like, what was that? Oh, I don't know. Like they just couldn't get through it. So it was great for a while there. Yeah.
Now, did you tell the colonel? Did you volunteer your services as a former lead singer of a band to help him with the song at all, or no?
No, that was
Okay.
that was such a, is this really happening? This isn't happening. Tell me this is happening. Like the entire staff just looking at each other, just kind of like, I think this is happening. We're not dreaming this. This is not a hallucination.
War makes people do crazy shit, man. I had a guest on my Corey Murphy, man. He was rolling around with an OIC that wanted Marines to wear purple ascots, man. It's I something about being in a wartime environment, man, gets people thinking a little bit differently.
They want to distinguish themselves. They want to they want the history books to say, you know, the story about the guys with the purple ascots, right? I mean, that was kind of what Chris Kyle and his guys did with the patches, right? Like that was a huge thing with the patches was a thing where it's like, hey, don't fuck around with these patches. Stop wearing these patches. And then they started wearing these patches and they got known for their patches. So it's like they want, so people like that, the glory hogs of the world, like they want to be remembered in the history books. And that's their way of like, you know, so the ascots, I understand why they did that, because if they got into a real no shit shootout, you know, somebody would have been like, the purple ascot, that would have been a thing. Like a joking thing. Like the rest of us know what the fuck is that? Like, no, who's doing that? But, you know, 50 years from now, you know, it's not it's just like the 82nd had a unit. What is it? The Devils in Baggy Pants. Yeah. It's the 504th. I forgot what Devils is one of but yeah, it was a whole thing with them. But the Germans were calling because they were falling out of the sky, the Devils with the baggy pants or something like that. And it's just like gives somebody an opportunity to distinguish themselves. And some people force that more than others, as opposed to just like, hey, let's just do the shit. And I don't know, whatever. What do I fucking know, right? I was just trying to stay alive over there.
What was your work as an S2 officer when you weren't outside the wire? Was it nonstop, just constantly battlefield updates and sending messages out, getting field intelligence reports sent back out, dissecting it, figuring out what's good, what's not? And then, when you weren't outside rolling around like a basic grunt with a rifle with this colonel with the mobile talk that he had, what was day-to-day like for you there?
I mean, it was very Groundhog Day, where you just go into the tent and you'd be there for 12 to 14, 15 hours. And it would just be processing information, either getting it from the guys who were going outside the wire, doing stuff, getting intel reports from the guys, and then pushing it higher, or digesting the stuff that was being sent out from brigade, like, hey, in your AO, look for this kind of stuff. And then also dealing with folks that would come to the base, like, individuals that would show up, and I would have to kind of be the liaison for the colonel, because while he was out interacting with people, he didn't want to deal with people that were coming onto the base, because there were always people trying to like beseech the king for different benefits from the U.S. military. Like, oh, hey, my goat was hit by a car and you guys could get us a bunch of goats, or you could pay us money for this. And like, we were backpacks full of money just going out to people. It's, when you hear about like the accountability of money that would just disappeared from that thing. And it's just like, oh my God, I know we had an artillery officer who was kind of like the money guy, and he would just show up with literal backpacks full of money or almost said Iraqi dinars, and just like paying for, oh, this bridge needs to be repaired, and this guy and his uncle they're gonna do the work, but they need the money first, and then this is gonna go to their tribe, and then 30% of the money is actually gonna go towards the bridge, but the rest of it is gonna just spread the wealth. And it was wild.
I witnessed that in Tunisia. I was a radio operator with a MEU at the time, and we show up in a Humvee, we get out, and there's like this farmer. We were doing the Tunisian Fiblex, and he's blaming the Marine Corps for killing like a cow. Of
course.
And we roll up, and I think that was the first time I ever I'm from New York and outside of Detroit, man. I didn't have too much experiences with cows. So we roll up on this thing, and he was a great captain, a funny guy, man. He was was part of the JAG, and he asked me what I thought. I'm like, sir, I think this is the first time I've ever seen a cow in person, but with all the flies on this thing and the maggots, this probably happened before we got here. And we still end up paying the guy some money, man. Out comes out the briefcase and all that, whatever. The guy probably gave him a couple $100 just to help keep the local peace, man. But
Yeah, meanwhile, it's like 12 cents to us, and for them, that's like an entire year's worth of income. It's like, oh, all right.
yeah, so I can picture
America,
all kinds of people
okay.
coming up. I can picture all kinds of the Iraqis coming up, knocking on the front door of Uncle Sugar's bank over there and saying, hey, this happened. I need this. I need that. So,
Yippers. I got to
yeah,
deal with all
so-
of them. And
So
it was
how long
very
did you
much
spend
like,
on
okay, 13 months total.
13?
Yeah, so my first 6 months were all over southern Iraq. We were driving all over the place with the strikers, and then I moved up to Mosul, and my life took a dramatic turn of I'm just in a talk all day, every day. Like no more outside the wire, no threat really. Like Mosul was as secure could be. This was before the cafeteria bombing. Literally like 2 months after I left was the cafeteria bombing that I was 3 times a day. I was at that cafeteria, so I dodged a real bullet on that one. But yeah, no, Mosul was great. It was one of Saddam's palaces, swimming pool, and had my own Connex, and it was great. I was on vacation at that point. Like I was doing the work, but it was like, it might as well have been a country away at that point. Like we weren't, oh no, they're mortaring us. All right, well, yeah, they're mortaring everywhere. Like it was, yeah, brigade headquarters it was nice. It was a much needed respite for, let's just say, if I had reversed those where I was at brigade headquarters for 6 months and then spent 7 months like down on the line, it would have been a much different conversation. I was ready for a break at that point.
Yeah. So after the 13 months, did you head back to Bragg?
I was up at Lewis. So I went
Okay,
back
Lewis.
to Lewis, and the thing that kind of changed
Where's
my
Lewis
life,
at?
that's Fort Washington, or Fort
Okay.
Washington State.
Washington State. Okay.
So the thing that kind of changed my life was we were left seat, right seat ride with the 101st. Ironically, they were the folks that we replaced when we got there, and then they sent another 100, I think it was the 101st. I can't remember. But at some point, the folks who showed up to replace us showed up, and we were, showing them the ropes. And I looked at the training calendar, and I don't know how I saw this, but I looked at the training calendar, and like within 9 months, we were already ramping back up to come back to where we were currently standing at in Iraq and take over for the people. Like 9 months was like the workup, like going to Yakima in Washington is like the training maneuver. And then, 3 weeks at NTC and all that shit, like getting prepared to redeploy back to the same place we were at. And by that point, I had just given up on the Iraqi people as a whole and just been like, these people can have it. Like, we're not doing anything over here. They don't want us here. We don't want to be here. Fuck these people. They'll smile at you all day and then plant IEDs. Like, and then, we love you, America, and then blow us up. And it was just like, yeah, these people can all have each other. Anybody who is,
yeah, I mean that is a generational argument. That's a generational conversation that people can have throughout the ages, man, between veterans, man. I mean, in Somalia, you're feeding the
Right.
same people. You recognize them. You're like, isn't that the fucker that was shooting at us?
well, it became real obvious that the bad guys were killing anybody that was working with us in any capacity. That was any kind of useful or competent. Anytime there would be like a police assassination or Iraqi army officer killed, it's like, well, that must have been one of the good ones, because the ones that were left alone were the ones that were cutting deals with the bad guys. And it was like, oh, okay, well, you're a piece of shit, obviously, because you're still alive. And that's really what it came down to. You found out real quick. It's like, well, if you're still here and they're not trying to kill you at every opportunity, then you must be bad. Like, you must have worked something out with them.
Yeah, you
where
got to
you're
be
not,
dirty.
and that's 9 times out of 10. It was like, it only made sense because they weren't going to just let somebody work with us for fun. Like this guy's actually providing good intel, like actually helping the Americans and not providing anything to us. Yeah, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was so dealing with having to sit across the table from people who are like the local representatives for the Iraqi army and for the Iraqi police, who they have to most likely dirty and like coming onto post and taking sketches and, counting out steps from this building to this building and all that shit. It's like, clearly they were doing that because it's like, oh, you're still alive. Like you have not been murdered in your sleep, or your family's still alive. It's like,
Yeah. Yep.
so yeah.
So did all of that end up ringing true then after 9 months? You found yourself
Yeah,
back
we were
over?
we were talking about at the end of the 13 months, we were scheduled to come right back in 9 months and do it all over again. And I was like, no, thank you. I'm done. 2 deployments overseas. almost 3 full years overseas for, in 4 years, I was like, I'm good. I don't need to be doing this anymore. And so I got out at 8 years, in 2006. That was my
Okay,
final date.
2006. Okay.
Yeah, and that was my final. So yeah,
So any did you look back at that at all and think that you should have wrote it out a little bit longer or no? Or you
a
were
little
completely
bit.
content?
I
You were
wouldn't have,
completely content, you
man.
were okay with it?
I wouldn't have mind doing a pop over to Afghanistan just to check that off the block, check that off the list. But I didn't want to come back to Iraq and do it all over again. Like at 13 months, it was like a long goddamn time to be somewhere. And then I came home and it was such a vacuum chamber. You just sucked out the door like, right, I'm home now. And just it might as well have been on another planet at that point. It was just like so strange of a transition, which is part of the reason why gaming turned into not turned into, but it was such a useful mental health, morale building device, which is part of what the charity's about. So
So in 2006, did you jump right into the workforce or did you take some time off or what was that transition like for you?
I
Because
tried
obviously
to.
you're a commissioned officer in the United States Army and you said, that's it, I'm done. Did you
Yeah.
have any opportunities waiting for you? Did you have to go out there and find them?
I had to go out and find them. I had some folks that we worked with when I was at brigade headquarters that were contracted intel folks. And so I had some connections in DC that I poked around when I got home and was like, hey, I worked with some of your people while I was overseas, hey, I'm available, and that ended up panning out like a year later. Like I moved back from Washington. I moved to Pittsburgh, spend time with my fiance at the time, who lived in Pittsburgh. And then when I got picked up by SAIC to start things off, we all moved down to DC. And so because I was Intel, I had clearances, TS clearance that got me my foot in the door in DC as an Intel guy. And I tell everybody now, I'm like, go Intel, get that clearance. Cause when you get out, you are primed and ready to make some serious money in DC.
Yeah.
So as opposed to infantry me, which would have been pushing a broom somewhere probably. I mean, I joke, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you stayed infantry though too, I mean, it might not have changed. I mean, would have been a whole different. It would have been a whole different avenue. I mean, it would have been two different experiences
oh,
for you,
yeah.
right? So, I mean, looking back, you might have chosen to stay in because of that broom sweeping possibility out there, right? So,
Possibly, but again, yeah, Lord knows where, but yeah, it'd have been still attached to a line unit or doing something. I don't know. I don't know how that would have been a weird. Yeah, boy, talk about another one of those. Like, boy, if I had not transitioned over to Intel, but I don't know,
I
I
was
did,
working.
and here we.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
All right. So, how was DC, man? Because I've been to DC and I freaking hate being there. I like walking around, checking out the monuments and all that. But if I'm not
Yeah,
doing that, I absolutely loathe being in Washington D.C. Was it good work for you? Was it?
it
I mean,
was
it was
fine.
paying the bills.
Yeah, boy, that was
Yeah.
coming off of infantry or coming off of officer pay, and the myth that is the tax. What do they call it? Combat tax deduction or whatever. I forgot what they
Mhm.
call it. There's a phrase for it, but yeah, it's like, oh, you're making so much money while you're deployed overseas, and then you come home and you start working as a government contractor. You're making twice what you made deployed overseas in hostile zones, and it's like, oh, okay. I was making like 40 grand in the military, and then my first job in DC was making 80, and they were laughing at me. The rest of the folks that I worked in my office, you're only making 80. It's like, I don't know, that's fantastic for what I was making before. And they're like, oh, we're making 120. I'm like, what? So yeah, it was just like, yeah, we're making real good money, which is kind of how things started. So I started and I bounced around DC. I mean, part of the thing with government contracting is you're constantly moving around. Like there's a contract, you're there for 9 months and then the contract ends, or we don't need your services anymore or something like that. So I was at FBI, spent 3 years at CIA. I was in the basement of the Pentagon doing Iraq intel for 3 years. So I mean, there was a bunch of bouncing around I literally filled up my DC bingo card full of different like 3-letter alphabet organizations I worked for: DIA, BI, CIA, just doing intel stuff. And it was great. I loved the work. And then, much like everything in my life, I stopped taking it seriously. Ironically, waited until I got to the CIA to go, I think I'm kind of done with this. I was getting my ass kicked at CIA. Like the folks doing intel at CIA, guess what? They're pretty good. And that's not a place you can really go in and fuck around at, where it's just like that. I had been doing intel work at that point for over 10 years, and I was tired of the war. I was tired of the fight. I was tired of, tracking insurgents and, watching them go back and forth across the borders and not be able to do anything about it. And I was just getting tired of it. And just watching these 21, 22-year-old kids out of Georgetown who, spending treating it like a deployment, like they were doing 12, 15-hour days at their desks and not doing anything else. And I had a wife and I was a family, it's like, hey, I'm not doing a deployment here. Like, I'm not a 9 to 5 guy, like, but I'm also like, I'm going to go home at the end of the day. And we're not coming in on the weekends. Like, I'm working a contractor, like, come on, man, this is how this works.
Right.
And I was not able to keep up with what was happening around me because it wasn't like it was one of those, like, we can't ask you to work 80 hours a week, but everybody else is working 80 hours a week. So if you're not working 80 hours a week, we could find somebody else who could do 80 hours a week. And so I just and at the time, and so part of the reason why the charity took off is I was starting to do more and more work on the weekends. This was like 2012, 2011 at the time. I was doing more and more charity work on the weekends, and it started to take up more and more of my life, kind of like with you in the podcast, where it's like, I have a job, but this is starting to take off and I like doing this. And I'm finding doing charity work is actually something that makes me happy and it's my calling and I'm making money off of it. And it's like, oh, I'm making good enough money as this, I can start doing this on the side. And it took off. So it turned into this, like, I don't need to do this anymore. So
All
yeah,
right,
I'm
so
not making 120 grand anymore, but I'm much happier with my life. So
right. Well, it might be a good segue, right? So what kind of charity work were you doing during that time?
So I started another charity called Operation Supply Drop, which is literally just stack up, but it's a different skin of that. And that was from 2010 to 2015, which is weird even saying that because I'm so used to saying 2020 on. But yeah, 2010 to 2015 was my first iteration, my first stab at charity work, which took off because America was still very much, you were post Bin Laden, but people still were like, yeah, but you support the troops no matter what. And so it was post housing crash in 2009. So it was just a good time. People were willing to support the troops. And I didn't have to do a lot of fighting as far as I always tell people, if you're going to start a charity, you either do puppies or sick kids because they're blameless victims, as I call them, where it's like a 6-year-old with leukemia, you can't really argue like, hey, this kid doesn't need your support. He's got a raw deal. Or a puppy, it's like, well, that's just sad. Like, it's in the eyes of an angel, not Alanis Morissette. Shit, I can't think of the name of the singer.
I'm tracking. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Or it's like, all right, it tugs at the heartstrings.
I'll text you at 2 a.m., man, when I remember it.
Right, 20 minutes from now, you're like, whereas in supporting veterans, you got a 29-year-old staff sergeant who may or may not have hit his wife on occasion and has a drinking problem. And these are the guys we're supporting. And it's like, or you get back the pushback of guys who are like, well, they signed up, they knew what they were getting in for, getting into, they decided they wanted to do this. And, or like, so you will always get that, or especially like right now where and I tell this to everybody, every year we get away from 9/11, my job gets a little harder. Because that love of the military goes away just a little bit more. And right now with the current administration, the way things are, like military and veterans are conflated with government and ICE and this current administration and bad. And I'm not supporting the man and, warmongers and baby killers and all that shit. And this is like, great. So donations dry up pretty dramatic. Like they just don't. It's even organizations that have a need to do corporate social responsibility, as it's called, they will pick softer targets. Like they'll go support puppies or like a organization will, instead of supporting us, they'll support, service animals for veterans. So it's like, we're helping veterans, but doggies, can't get mad at doggies.
Yeah.
Or the veterans who need those dogs, which are usually severely injured veterans. It's like, okay, that's a hard, so it's tough, especially with what it is we're doing, because we're recreational therapy in essence, like video games and gaming and Pokemon and any of that stuff. It's just like people will tell you, oh, why wouldn't you help veterans get jobs? Or why wouldn't you help veterans get off the streets or any number of things? It's like, well, first off, I do what I know. And I've been playing video games since I could walk.
Well,
and
that's something also too, because that's the point of what the point is that there's other charities out there that are doing what those people are asking you why, and no one was out there doing what you're doing now. So what I think we need to do is let's talk about Stack Up. Let's talk, let's get that introduced, man, because you decided to get going on your own. You came up with this fantastic organization that that is that is taking care of veterans, man, in a different way, another
Right.
option. So let's talk about Stack Up. Let's
So
let's let let's take it from the beginning and then the whole umbrella of it, and then we'll talk about what's underneath it and
I
all the
love it. We're
fucking
50 minutes
awesome
in
that you're
and
doing.
we're 50 minutes in and we're just like, hey, you should talk about that charity you're running. It's like, we should. I was just over here just chatting away. It's like, oh, right. Stack Up. Stack Up, we're a military charity. We support U.S. and allied veterans through gaming and geek culture. And so what that started out was sending Xboxes and PlayStations to units deployed forward. Because when I was deployed forward, we were getting Connexes full of whatever horse shit that civilians, well-meaning civilians back home were boxing up and sending overseas. But it was like baby powder and wet wipes and the cookies that were packed with the baby powder and wet wipes. So they taste like baby powder and wet wipes. Just pallets and pallets full of baby powder and wet wipes. And it's like, that could have been used for something that guys actually want. Like, let's do something meaningful. And as a gamer, it was always one of those like, well, gaming, let's send an Xbox over. Because it all started back when one of my guys in 2008 deployed forward to Afghanistan. He was in my wedding and he stayed in when I got out. He deployed forward to Afghanistan. And when he was there, they had rat fucked the MWR facility, like the morale tent. Like the previous unit left and they took all the shit out of it. And so he's like, hey, you're into gaming. You have connections to the games industry very loosely. Cause at the time I was doing like a video game podcast and I was doing interview, kind of like what you're doing here. I was doing podcasts with like game developers and stuff like that because I love video games and I wanted to do video game stuff. And so I had connections and I reached out to like Activision and EA and all these game developers. And I said, hey, I got a guy who's over in Afghanistan. He could use an Xbox. What do you guys think? And again, we're talking like 2009-ish. So still bin Laden is the big bad boogeyman out there. And we got guys out there doing the good fight. And so I got pallets and pallets of donated product from these studios and developers. And it was like, I was just looking for an Xbox. My basement looked like a GameStop. And at the time,
It's
a
awesome.
lot of, it was great. It was like, oh shit. And so that was the first like,
Maybe I need to reach out to those guys for the Miles Gregarius Foundation, man.
right. So it turned into, oh, okay, there might be something here. Like, okay, I wasn't planning on doing anything with this, but it's like, okay. So I boxed up a bunch of that, sent it to my boy Jeff. He sent back a bunch of great pictures of them doing a Guitar Hero competition using a briefing projector off the side of a Connex. And they were doing a cigar night and they had Stetson hats on and everything. You couldn't have asked for better marketing because the pictures we got back were so good. It was like fucking fantastic. Sent everything to Activision and EA and all the people that we got stuff from. I'm like, check this out. All that stuff you sent over, here's where it went to. Check this out. You guys did awesome. Thank you so much. The end. I was like, that's so cool. Awesome. I got all this extra stuff. The thing turned into, well, you get one dude an Xbox. And next thing you know, 2 weeks later, I get an email from like 41 Fires going, whoa, hey, we could use an Xbox. And then 296, maintenance, like, hey, I heard you got Jeff an Xbox and I got a guy, we could use an Xbox. And so, and I like had a basement full of stuff and money that I could out of my own coffers to like ship it and buy things that like extra controllers and a headset or like stuff that they like, hey, what do you guys want? What do you guys need? I can spend a couple $100s out of my pocket. I don't give a shit. I'm making ridiculous money at the time. Yeah, I'll make this happen. But it was like this cyclical loop of like, oh, people have heard about this crazy captain from back home sending people Xboxes. Can we get one of those? And it just went from there. And next thing, so it real fast. Like, and so, yeah, that's kind of how things started. And now we're a mental health charity. Things, 15 years down the road, here we are.
Yeah. How was it when did you realize you needed help when you needed more people, when you needed to bring people on? I mean, was it when the first pallet showed up, you looked at it, you're like, boy, I'm going to need some help? Or once the cycling of the donations started going out more frequely?
Well, I was doing everything by myself. And so that's where my work at the CIA started to fall off a little bit, where it was like, Machuga seems like he's taking a lot of time off. Like I was going to conventions and doing business meetings with developers that were going to conventions to try to get more product and get more visibility for the charity and donations and do events. And it'd be like, oh, okay, it starts on a Friday and ends on a Sunday night. And then I would show up to work on Monday, or I would take the Monday off into a Tuesday and be like, I'll be back on Tuesday. And yeah, they did not appreciate, like, you do a couple of those and it's like, so, but the extra people came with the money, like, because I was doing it all by myself for a long time. We had volunteers who would help out every now and again, but, until there was enough money to hire people full time, then it was like, okay, we got a thing going on. And now I have a staff of 12 people who are helping me keep the ship afloat, which is no small task in 2026. But yeah.
So what numbers? Is there any way for you, and maybe this is something I should have asked you about before, but I have a feeling you might be prepared and I know you got some other things going on, but when you talk about sending out these packages of the PlayStations or Xboxes or whatever that you're getting out there, you think you could put a number on how many have been sent out since
Yeah.
that very first day until today?
Well, not the very first day, because from 2010 to 2015 was my first charity where I brought on a business partner to help me with that.
Okay.
And business partner was bad
Mm,
and took over the organization out from under me for the most part.
okay.
And so by 2015, I was like, I had no idea what was going on. So I started over again without him. And it was like, because we got lawyers involved, and the lawyers were like, look, you could spend 2 years in court fighting this, $100,000 of your own money. And the best that can happen is both you and the business partner are in the wrong for letting it get to this point. And they would just shut the charity down because it's a public organization. Like, nobody owns a charity. It's technically a public work. So they would just like force you to shut things down. So your best bet is to start over. So I started over in 2015. Since 2015, we have supported over 70,000 veterans across all of our platforms. Now, that's not 70,000 Xboxes. When somebody sends in a request to us, and this is how we get our numbers, in 10 years, when somebody sends in a request, part of the request is how many people is this supporting? And so you get the folks who are a veteran and they have a family of 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like, okay, that's 4 people. Or, hey, this is going to a company day room. That's 100 people. Or that's like, this will see 50 people will get, like, this is for a platoon, or does it always go that way? No. Sometimes Sergeant Smith is just going to grab that Xbox, take it to his room, and you're never going to see it again. But based on the numbers that we were getting across all of our platforms, 70,000 veterans supported over the last 10 years through our platforms. Now, right now, our current tempo is we're sending out 12 of our crates a month and it's usually about $1,500 worth of product, games, game codes, controllers, consoles. We're sending out 12 a month. And then at the end of the year, we do this thing called 100 Heroes, where originally it was, hey, we're going to clear out our backlog of requests, and we're just going to get as many Xboxes and PlayStations as we can get, and we're going to send them overseas to kind of clear out the backlog. Now we're at a point where we get over 1,000 requests a year, and we can't possibly support everybody. And we get people who are just like, hey, look, it's taking years to get to your request. I hope you still need an Xbox or something, because we just can't get to everybody. And we're not getting the money. We don't have the resources to be like, as soon as it comes in 2 weeks later, we're not Amazon, right? We can't, 2 weeks later. And with the way chip prices are going up and tariffs, and we just got an email this morning saying that UPS is no longer delivering to certain APO overseas addresses because they're now hostile areas, which is wild, like Kuwait and Doha. And it's like, wow, okay, that's a new one. Because, I mean, you were delivering to Afghanistan and Iraq, but now you won't go to Kuwait? Like, what is this? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, DHL got hit by a SAM coming in.
There it is. Okay. Man. I didn't know that. That explains everything.
Yeah, but those guys didn't stop delivery, man. They took a kick-ass picture, and they got a great story to tell UPS.
No, I got it. But
those guys never stopped flying in and out of country, man. I mean, what's a SAM?
Shit.
Big deal.
That makes so much more sense. Because, like, why are they saying they're not going to deliver to Kuwait now? It's like, okay, that's why.
Yeah, but DHL didn't quit after they got hit by a SAM. They kept going, man. They didn't quit.
Great, Mark. Good news story for them. They didn't lose anybody, and great story. Like, and we are at war, and we are going to support this war, and we're going to continue. Like, that's got to get Donald Trump a little hard in his pants. Like, we're supporting the troops, and we're going to continue to fly where UPS are. Like, I mean, I get it. Yeah. That's funny as shit.
So you've got more than just the systems and the crates that you guys are sending out, right?
We do.
Air assault.
Right. So air assaults are our most expensive product. That's where we fly, we say, disabled or deserving veterans to various gaming and geek culture events. Because one of the things that got me on this trajectory was the first time I went to a gaming convention. like a Comic-Con, but for gaming. Gaming back when I was playing video games was a very solitary experience. It was before the world of, video games being always online and your Call of Duties where you would come home and play video games with all your buddies. I wasn't doing any of that. Like World of Warcraft was a major transformative game for me. So going to a convention with 60,000 other gamers and realizing you're not alone is a huge thing. And nowadays gaming conventions are kind of like a well-known, like, oh, okay, this is a thing. And there's, a lot of major gaming conventions out there, but we also do like studio tours. Like we have our headquarters here in Los Angeles where we bring guys out and do the Hollywood tour. We take them on Hollywood, like we take them to Universal, we go to Disney, just cool opportunities to get guys and gals out from their comfort zone. And we bring them out here. We have a good time. We take them to a gaming event and get them into a community of people so they don't feel so alone. Because gaming sometimes can feel very, if you're not playing games online, it can be a very solo experience. So that is our aerosol. We bring out like 3 to 4 folks at a time. And we had to scale back the last couple of years of doing it because it's so expensive. It's like $10,000 to $15,000 a pop every time we do it. So it's very much like so now we're picking them back up because we had a very good year last year.
Okay. So the scope, right, of this too is, so you got these veterans that are deserving for one way or another, Do you guys also have, are they part of the Stack Up gaming community?
Not always.
No,
we would like them to be a part of that, but the requests that we get, we have a request form on our website. And generally speaking, people who come to aerosols, there's a pretty good turnover as far as the percentage of somebody then sticking with us, like, hey, you guys are awesome. Thank you for doing this. And being a part of our community, our Discord, or like coming out to other events and volunteering for us, it's pretty high after that. But yeah, we get just random people from across. They'll just, you send people to Comic-Con, or you send, like, I would love to see Rick and Morty studio, or like Green Portal Productions and things like that. Like, so yeah,
I think I think it's cool when I compare it to like what my last guest was doing, right? Like getting involved with WeDefy. It's a foundation for judo, to Judo Foundation, where they're getting wounded and PTSD vets on the mat. So this here, I think it would be healing, and I think it would be helpful, right? I mean, to have a veteran, PTSD, other issues, wounded, whatever, to get hooked up gaming headset with someone just like him, and they can have that connection, and where they're not feeling isolated anymore. So,
and that's a big piece of the rest of our programs, like our Overwatch program. We have a mental health.
Next thing I was going to ask you about.
Yep, Overwatch. It used to be a much more active program as far as we had trained volunteers who, it was like a $250,000 program that we were running a year. It was a suicide hotline for the most part via our Discord chat. And if anybody came in and said, hey, I'm having a rough time, I need to talk to somebody, we had somebody ready and waiting within like 2 minutes was the standard time. Because back when I wasn't doing so well, I called the suicide prevention hotline, the 966 or whatever the hell. I forgot what a 933. I forgot what the veteran one is, but I called it and waited on hold for 20 minutes and finally just hung up. So there are definitely one of the conversations like, hey, if you're going to do this, you need to make sure that you're on. So we would have people standing by ready to go if somebody came in and needed some help. And so, but unfortunately we had to scale it. We had to shut most of that down because it's just so expensive keeping people ready to go 24/7, having staff members and just the training and the volunteers and making sure all of that, like there's a lot that goes into it. So now we're a much more passive support as that. Like our Overwatch program still happens, but it's more like a put your information in here and we'll get to you when we get to you, because we just don't have the 24/7 support available. And then we have things like game nights and mental health game nights where it's get everybody out and interacting with one another online, because a lot of our Overwatch grew up from a game night that happened where, you get a bunch of guys in a room playing a video game together, like a Call of Duty, and you play for an hour or two, and eventually somebody's going to start talking about their lives in a way that they weren't planning on it, or they're like having, hey, what's going on? Or, yeah, you seem like you're being kind of shitty tonight. What's going on? My life kind of sucks. I'm just going to go wrap my car around a tree. Little things like that. And you get somebody who does that a couple times, and you're like, hey, Sergeant Smitty's, I want to talk to him. He's going through it right now. And so we opened up a chat room in our Discord, and said, hey, if anybody needs to talk, or if anybody needs somebody to talk to, just, put something up in here and we'll figure it out. And that took off immediately. So it turned into hey, I think we found something else, but it's just so cost prohibitive to keep that going. And it's stressful. Like you've got, the suicide hotline conversation of it's just emotionally taxing. You talk to somebody who's ready to kill themselves or in a bad situation for 2 hours, and then you just rest of your day, you're just kind of staring at and I've put time in, nowadays, because it's just like, hey, and if anybody's available, and I'll jump in and I'll start talking to somebody and it can be a lot where it's just like that. You have to be very kid gloves with a lot of these folks and hey, you want to jump in a game? You want to just sit here and bullshit? We can do whatever you want to do. But yeah, it's draining, and we've definitely saved people's lives. We've got a
Hell
couple.
yeah.
We had a guy. The biggest story that I tell people was to the guy who came in and it's like, I'm going to kill myself. I have a gun, and our volunteer talked him down and said, hey, can you do me a favor? Just unload the firearm, and take the chamber out of take the round out of the chamber. And it's got him talked with him for an hour or two, and then everybody went to bed or whatever. The next day, Joe comes back on, the Smitty comes back on in the chat and said, hey, I got a story for y'all. Went to go kill myself this morning. I took the gun, put it to my head, forgot I had taken the rounds out of the gun, and pulled the trigger and nothing happened. And that level of that sat me up in my chair, and I'm going to go get some help now because I don't want to die now. And it was because usually our programs, when somebody shows up in Discord or somebody shows up in our chat client and says, hey, I'm having a rough time, and then they go away, or hey, thanks for talking, and then you don't hear from them again, you don't know where that story ends. Are they better? Did they do better? Are they still a part of our community, or did they go and kill themselves? We don't know. And so to get that immediate feedback of, oh, I was going to kill myself, and because of me talking to you and completely forgetting about this, I did not kill myself. It's okay. And so I don't know how many of those wins or saves we have as far as that, but I know we have to have saved countless lives at this point through that program of just, hey, do you want to play Minecraft together for a couple hours and just yell about your wife and your car payment and your kids, and just whatever you need to get off your chest while you're looking for diamonds in Minecraft or whatever. It's surprisingly effective. So
Yeah.
we were working with the CDC before their name kind of ran through the mud during COVID, but we were working with them to determine the effectiveness of our programs with suicidal volunteers. And we had a write-up at the CDC about the effectiveness of gaming and, how it's effective for veterans and getting them from being isolated through online gaming and giving them the opportunity. Isolation is a huge trigger for veteran suicide, because if you feel like you're alone out there, then you're just nobody cares if I live or die. And so, but if you have oh, I've got a raid tonight at 5 o'clock, you have something that gets you out of bed in the morning. It makes sure it gives you a schedule. It gives you a purpose. I'm a part of a team. Back when I was in the military, remember those days, boys? We had a great time in the military. You talk with other military personnel, you bullshit war story. Even just the two of us back and forth today, it was just oh, we're bullshitting war stories. Gives you that little spark. You get that little good old days back in the military. And it sucked when we were in, but man, time as a way of painting everything with gold brush. And just God, man, remember, oh, so great. I miss those days. It's it sucked the whole time. You hated it and complained the whole time, but I wish I'd go back.
Hell yeah. And what a wonderful articulation, man, because you're not going to get a argument out of any veteran that's not exactly what you just said it is, man. Prior service and looking back and all that. It fucking sucked. It always sucks. It sucked back then. It sucked for me. It sucked for you. It's sucking now, and it's going to suck tomorrow too. But when the guys get back together, you're right, man. That golden brush comes over, and you look at it with envious eyes. And for you to have this community going where you can connect those guys together, man, it's freaking commendable, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's great. It's got to be taxing. It's got to be taking a toll, right? Because you don't know. It would be wonderful to be able to put a number on it, to have a thermometer chart saying how many lives actually have been saved. But just hearing that story. Hey, man, that guy talked me down. He disassembled my gun. I forgot that I did it. I went to go pull the trigger. That click woke me up out of it. I'm here today, man. Let's talk. I'm not doing that again. I'm moving forward. So that right there has got to be worth, hearing that and being able to tell that story over and over again. It's got to be worth the stress, the personal financial expenses that you've taken on throughout the time, and the sleepless nights worried about stackup.org, man. So, and other lives have been saved, man, or they might have been changed, right? I mean, it might not be where they're on that ledge and then this happened, but their life might have been on that trajectory. They get involved with Stack Up and some of the other members, right? And their trajectory changed now that, now they're moving away from that ledge where they might not even know that they were moving towards. So it's
Oh,
great.
yeah, we are way better. We are way more effective at catching people months before they're ready to like be suicidal. Where it's like you keep that morale high before they ever get to a point where they're like, I don't even want to be here anymore. Like that's the goal anyway. But I mean, just having a good community around of people that like feel comfortable and feel safe and hang out, and as opposed to not having anything else, because again, veterans have a tendency to just isolate and not want to hang out with other people. And I am definitely one of those cats.
Yeah. Yeah, there are definite days, times, weeks, a little bit of vulnerability here on my part, man, where I just wish I could just totally be gone for a bit, and ignore
My
the
God.
responsibilities, or ignore work, but we can't. We can't. We're responsible. We have people in our lives that we got to be accountable to. But yeah, if you got a solo veteran, man, it's really easy to slip into that. It's really easy to slip into that. So what's up with the Phalanx house? Is that still the thing?
I'm sitting in it right now. Yeah. Phalanx
Excellent.
House
Let's
is
talk about
actually our
that.
headquarters. Yeah. It's our headquarters in Los Angeles. It is a mansion that we have retrofitted into a community center for veterans. So it's been kind of quiet this last year, but we're ramping it back up to start getting more and more events again. We do a weekly game night here at the house where we get local veterans here who don't really have a lot going on. It's mostly post-homeless guys, and we give them a place to come over and feel human again. And most of these guys are either we have a pretty sizable Dungeons and Dragons campaign going on in the backyard that kind of goes to different places, whether they're playing Fallout or they're playing, they've done Star Trek. They've done a bunch of different like versions of Dungeons and Dragons, but I did not know how much that game was going to change a lot of these guys coming in, but they fell in love. Like a bunch of our locals love Dungeons and Dragons now, with just the escapism, I guess. I don't know what it is, but our DM is just really good, and he tells a compelling story and is very good at his job because anyway, it's a 6-bedroom mansion that is literally just adult tree fort in essence. It's like beanbag chairs, and there's a LAN center with a bunch of computers hooked up to one another that you play games. Locally we have VR headsets and a 83-inch television in the living room for big events, and a pool and a jacuzzi, and just when I wanted office space for the charity, I was thinking a 200 square foot studio in a strip mall somewhere. I was not expecting this, but one of our major donors, came along and said, well, I don't want to rent anything, so let's just buy something. And I was like, you're the one with the checkbook, guy. I'm just over here like, hey, whatever you want to do. And so it turned into, he is renting us this house for $1 a year and taking care of, in Los Angeles. Yeah. This is a $15,000 a month rental, which I looked it up on Zillow and was like, yeah, comparable houses is $15,000 a month. It's like, holy shit. So we're getting it for $1. And yeah, we're bringing veterans over. Like we have a regular drug and alcohol rehab group from the VA that's all women that come over on Wednesdays. They hang out, and just it's getting them out of there, because the local Los Angeles VA is one of the largest VAs in the country, obviously. And for being over 100 years old, they're not doing great. Like they just built a community center on campus for the 1,600 veterans that they have living on campus. And it's like, you've been here for over 100 years and it is 2026 and you just opened a community center. It's like, what are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? So we supported a lot of that. Like we bought them a bunch of computers, because the only reason that community center came together was because of a bunch of people who work at the VA who were just concerned citizens who were like, hey, we should do this. Like, we got a bunch of guys that are getting into trouble on campus because they have nothing to do all day. We should do this. And so they've been asking different organizations to help out, and they came to us and they're like, you're the video game guys. Can you get us some video games? Like, yeah, we'll take care of you guys. Absolutely. And so we set up the VA at the largest VA in the country with their community center. And yeah, it's a lot of local stuff here in LA because now we're headquartered here. So yeah, that's it's a great place, and I love these guys that come over every week, and it's a community that we're building out. And these guys who are kind of ground down by the system, being in the VA and all the complaints that you hear about the VA. Now imagine living at the VA and just like the stupidity and the dumb things that are happening right now. Again, current administration and all the budget cuts and layoffs. And it's like you got people with doing 3 jobs, at once. And of course, they're not getting the help they need. People talk a lot of shit about the VA. I give them the credit as far as they're doing the best they can with what they have, which isn't much. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's not like there's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse. It's literally just like they just don't have the people or the money or the resources to do it because this is what they have. So
Yeah, I truly believe that if the VA was able to, they would be doing what all of these other charitable organizations for veterans are doing themselves, but they can't.
at least I think that's the case. I could be totally wrong. I don't think anybody gets into that line of work going, yeah, I want to fuck veterans over on a professional basis. I think it's literally just like, we don't have like you talk to any of these guys, like they go to get an appointment for something and it's a 6-month wait and they have to go through community care and that's still 2 months. And it's like, because they're so backlogged, like there's so many people who need help. That's just the way it is. It's like, it's not like they don't want to help you. It's just, so at least I believe that's the case. I don't think anybody gets into that line of work going, yeah, I'm just going to be a problem and I don't want things to work and I want the VA to fail and look bad.
Oh, no. Yeah, of course not. So let me ask you something here. It's something we spoke offline about before we started. You gave a prior interview to Canvas Rebel back in February 2024, and you were talking about resiliency. I'll get it linked up. You were talking about resiliency, and one of the things that you had told Canvas Rebel was that for as long as you've been working on the charity, you don't know how much fuel you got left in the tank.
Yeah.
How are you feeling now today, 2026, March? How is Stack Up in a good position? Or how are you doing? And is this, you got it moving forward? Where do you see this 5 years from now? I bring you back episode 100 and we talk about Stack Up. What is your vision? Where do you see it being?
Well, all right. So a year ago, back in February, we were in a real bad spot. Like we were going to miss payroll. Like we had no money and we were running out of money. And it was very much the scene out of Top Gun where Goose tells Maverick, like, hey, you got the number for that trucking company? Like we should start looking. I wonder if they're hiring, kind of things, because it's like, yeah, we're not going to make it to the end of the year like this. Like we're going to run out of money. And so in my head, I was mentally putting on my parachute, as it were, like, okay, it was fun. We helped a lot of people, but it's over. What's the next step? And there's a part of me that I could retire if I wanted to. Like I could retire tomorrow. I don't want to. A part of me does. There's a part of me that's like, I could use a break, but then I know 2 months into being retired, I would be climbing the walls. As with everything, you take a vacation, you're like, I really like the Bahamas. This is really nice. I should come down here and be a bartender. I think that'd be freaking awesome. And then you go live that life for 2 weeks. It's like, okay, maybe not, grass is always greener on the other side kind of mindset. So a year ago, we were just like, man, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to make it. I'm going to start looking for something else to do with my life. And then the last 6 months have been some of the best 6 months we've had in a long time as far as fundraising goes. Because post-COVID and the economy has been in the toilet for so long, we cut a lot of our programs, we cut a lot of our spending, which to the detriment of the charity, but we cut a lot of our spending and we had a really good year of fundraising. So we're in a really, really good position right now. And it's like, oh, so we made it after it's kind of, and I've been using the analogy of when you're in the military and you go run, they tell you we're going to run 4 miles and then you get done with the 4-mile run. And then they go, and now we're going to run another 2 miles, which they did a lot in the infantry where they're just like, hey, we're going to fuck with you. Like, it's a 10-mile road march. Well, now it's a 15-mile road march. And we're going to see who immediately just falls over and just goes, nah, I'm done. Because they're trying to strengthen you mentally and fuck with you. But the bottom line is my brain went, I'm done. I don't need to run anymore. I can stop. And they go, oh, well, now you got another 2 more miles ahead of you. And it's like, I was kind of mentally getting ready to check out. And it's been 15 years of this. And it's not like I'm making a lot of money. I'm making 50 grand a year doing this in Los Angeles. So you can imagine how far that goes. So it hasn't been easy, but it's also been one of these things where it's just like, I'm tired. Like I've been doing this a long time. Now that said, once we got a bunch of money in, it was like, oh, okay, we could take a breath. We could start doing more mission stuff. It's not this, when the organization was in a bad place, everybody was just yelling at each other all the time. It was that constant stress of everybody was just cranky and we weren't able, I can't do that because we don't have any money. And because we didn't know if we were going to, if we were going to make payroll. So it's like, What's that?
Yeah, I mean, tensions had to be high. You have all these people
Yeah.
working that are counting on the, counting on the foundation. You got veterans that are counting on the foundation, and I can imagine being stressful during that time. I can imagine.
Sorry, I got our puppy here just keeps got into something and she's been throwing up all over the house apparently. One of my guys came in and just was like, sorry. So god damn, sorry. Sorry about that. But yeah, as far as that goes, like I'm getting back into it again because there was like that idea of okay, well, much like the military, it's like, well, I guess we're running 2 more miles. You can't stop. Like, okay, I guess we're gonna keep doing this. So and with that mindset, like it was just a weird time at the end of the year last year in December where it was we got a break, like 2 weeks off, and then it was like, oh, I could live like this. Like I could just retire and not come back and be done with it. And we came back and it was hard to get the motor started again, as far as like getting motivated to get like because it was like, I don't need to keep doing this. I'd go do something else. I could do nothing else. I could just but then when people started showing up at the office again, when people started showing up, like my emails started getting responded to, events were happening, things were happening. It's like, okay, it's things are moving again. We're getting it going again. I don't know how much longer I have left of this. I don't know how much I got in the tank. I'm happy to keep doing it. It's just, I think part of the fun of running an organization with like this was pre-COVID. We were on this trajectory of just like, it just every year kept getting better and better and better. And then post-COVID, COVID was some of our best years ever because people just had expendable income and they were donating like mad. And then coming out of COVID, we're in full recession right now, depression, and people don't want to spend money on anything. They don't know where this current administration is taking us. Tariffs are kicking everybody's ass. Nobody wants to donate money because you make donations when you have excess money.
Mhm.
So it's not as much fun when you're not like, oh, we could try new programs or do more things or help more people, or we're playing defense and we're just worried about keeping the lights on and everybody's angry at one another because we can't do this, we can't do that. We got people who we owe rewards for fundraising that we can't support and they get mad at us. And it's just like, so it's just a stressful time, but we're back on this climb where it's like, okay, we're coming out of this dark period and we're starting to do better. And we're more responsible with money. We're not adding new programs. So it's a little more fun and it's a little light. And people are having like, hey, can I get $100 to buy this thing that we need for this? Like, yeah, we can do that now. It's not like no, we can't. And then people get bent out of shape or like some of our volunteer efforts require money. And it's just, yeah. So yeah, better place. We're getting there. We're in March now. So we're stepping it back out again.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, whatever the podcast can do, whatever the Miles Gregarius Foundation can do, man, to throw get the word out, man. Hopefully get you guys exposed to maybe a whole different audience type of people, man. I mean, I would just love to see this thing just keep going, man. You guys crushing it, And if it comes to a point where you got to step away and someone else takes over, it happens. It happens all the time across business. It happens all across all the times throughout, the business world, the corporate world, public sector work and all that. People come in, man, and,
Yeah. I think part of the
so
problem is because I'm such a critical, and I hate to say it like this, but I'm such a critical piece of this. Like, we don't have anybody that could step in and do kind of like, since this is my brain, that's part of the reason why the other charity that I started from 2010 to 2015 ended up failing out was because the business guy didn't have the military aspect, didn't have the love of video gaming, didn't have like, it was just a business guy who saw it as an opportunity. It was like, oh, this is a cool thing. I should just
yeah,
take this from this guy
yeah.
and
Well,
I'll
good
run
luck
it.
now. Okay.
Yeah, well, that was the thing is it didn't obviously. So you need to have the love of everything that I'm doing. And I don't know if we know somebody that could step in and just take over because it requires a lot of connections. It requires a lot of work. You got to not make a lot of money. And, but there's definitely some good days out there and I love it. And that's part of it. I want this organization to outlast me. And I don't know if it will right now. And that's concerning, but it's a tough time to run a charity. Just everybody, not just us, but we've watched a lot of mom and pop charities get on emails and send out the either we're closing our doors or we're having a bake sale. And if this thing doesn't go well, we're going to have to shut our doors kind of thing. A lot of smaller organizations that don't have hundreds of millions of dollars squirreled away in the bank for a rainy day like this. And even those organizations are probably like the St. Jude's of the world, even though they're sitting on $6 billion, literally like, you can see their numbers are not nearly what it was a couple of years ago as well. Like they're celebrating numbers that would have probably got people fired a couple of years ago. because so it's like it's everybody across the board. So it's a tough time to be running a charity. I tell everybody that. Everybody I will help people will come to me like, "Hey, how do I do what you do? I want to start a military charity. I want to do this." I'm like, "It's a tough time to be getting started in this. If you starting first off to get in a time machine and go back to 9/11 and then start a charity." And that's the best time to do it, but
Yeah, I
yes.
spoke with and someone I could talk offline to you about here in a minute, but I spoke with an executive director of a really big organization, man, and it got started up after 9/11, and I think it took them 14 years of grinding where they were finally able to get it off of their kitchen table. So, I mean, just the work it takes, commendable, you know. Is there anything else we need to know about Stack Up, or even you, Steven?
Boy, after an hour and a half, no, I think you have gotten more than you've gotten a shotgun blast full of Steve Machuga right now. So, as
Yes.
far as, but yeah, we've covered the Stack Up stuff. It's our 10-year anniversary this year at Stack Up, and it's been a big kind of celebration, primarily because we didn't know if we were going to make it to 10 years. But yeah, we hit November. Veterans Day is our anniversary every year. So when we turn the calendar over on November 11th this year was the start of our 10-year anniversaries. Definitely proud of that. But yeah, otherwise find us all on social media at stackup.org. We're on all the websites. We're on all the stackup.org. If you need help, if our Discord is where you want to go as far as if you're looking for a community of somebody to talk to or game with or just hang out with other veterans, we're a good place for that. And another thing, actually, you know what? That does remind me. A lot of veteran organizations are not very LGBT friendly. And one of the things that I have always been a proponent of is when I was in the service, I'm a straight white guy. I'm just a dumb old infantry dude. So I can, and life in the military was pretty hard. So I can only imagine how much harder it would have been, like add levels of difficulty being gay, lesbian, trans, any of that stuff, like hiding all of that stuff from your command and all that shit. I was an infantry guy. I was guys to the left and right of me. I'm sure we had gay guys. Like a squad of our platoon was probably gay, and I didn't know it. So their lives were probably way harder than mine was. And my theory is, if you put that uniform on, I don't care what else you do. You're in the military. You're a brother or sister of mine. That's all that matters, and that's all that should matter. Not everybody feels that way, but that's just a big part of what Stack Up is about. And we have definitely picked up a very large contingent of the LGBT community because I feel it's a safe space. It's somewhere
Mm.
where people can feel it's not about any of that. And if you want to talk about that, it's fine, but it's about your service and it's about supporting veterans. And I don't put a race, it's the old joke about the we hate everybody equally. Well, it's true. So we also love everybody equally. You put that uniform on, that's all that matters. So that's a big piece of what it is we believe in at Stack Up. So just a heads up for your
That's
people out
awesome.
there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, when you look at all issues of freedom and liberty, right? Guys taking that oath, man, you know, it doesn't, you know, people chasing their version of freedom, they're people chasing their version of liberty, man. I mean, you gotta honor it, man. And you know, if you agree with it or not, man, it doesn't it's what they want, you know. So if you guys are a veteran organization, you guys are a veteran charity, you know, and you're right, man. They fucking put that uniform on and they allowed the government, you know, they allowed Uncle Sugar to do anything with them that they desired during their time in, man. So they're absolutely no less deserving, you know, than anyone else, man. So it's great.
There you go.
I mean, it's great that you're putting it out there for everyone, man. So thank you.
Well, not
So,
there are a lot of veteran organizations out there that are just like,
hmm,
I mean, yeah, thank you for your
yes,
service, but you stay over
right,
there. You're one of
right,
them. And it's like, no, they
yeah,
were in the foxhole with me. Kindly
yep,
fuck off. That's
yeah.
you're one of us.
I'm with you, brother. I am with you. So, all right. Anything else?
That covers it. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, I'm gonna check back in with you, man, in a couple, maybe after a 10-year, man. You know,
Yeah, you know
of
what?
course, we'll
Yeah, I
stay
wouldn't.
connected.
That wouldn't be a bad. This is. Trust me, I am equally as interested to see where the next couple of years are going because it's like,
Hell yeah. All right. All right. So I'll get the Discord linked up. I'll get everything stacked up, social linked up underneath for over here, YouTube and Spotify, and of course, all of our socials as well, too. So everyone will have access to everywhere you're at. They'll be able to get in contact. They will be able to get to stackup.org and support Stephen and support his foundation so we can continue to send out those crates and have those events and take care of veterans. So we'll get that done, Stephen. All right, brother.
right on. Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right. I appreciate the time. LA, things have got to be crazy. You got to be busy, man. So also thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, that is it. We are feet dry. We are returned to base. I want to thank everyone for checking out this episode. Make sure you head over to notsospecialpodcast.com. You'll find this episode. You'll find everything else for Steven and stackup.org. Thanks, everyone.